call to order the. I'd like to call to order the Parks, Property and Streets Committee meeting on Monday, March 3rd, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Can we take a roll call, please?
Olson,
Here,
Bertle,
Here.
Orozco,
Here.
Laskowitz,
Here.
and Aaron's.
Here.
okay, and next, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 3, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 3rd, 2025 meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Agenda item 4, do we have comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public? I don't see anything in the packet. Did I miss something?
Nope, there is no
Okay,
correspondence.
any comments or from those gathered here? Hearing
My
none.
name's Tim. Oh, hi, Tim Kasperzak, Door County Parks Manager. I'm here if you have any questions on the beach water quality sign project revision.
Perfect. When
Just
we get to
letting
that-
you know I'm in attendance.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks very
You're
much. Okay, moving on to agenda 5A. This is a discussion action item for the Friends of Sister Bay Ice Rink proposed operating agreement for the Teresa K. Highlander Sister Bay Ice Rink. So, Miles, take it away.
All right, Miles Danhausen, in the Friends of Sister Bay Ice Rink. We just, based on conversations that we've had with the parks and the board over the last few months, there's been different times when people ask for how would this operate, what would it look like going forward, what would the budget look like? So we had a subcommittee work on drafting just a outline of agreement that we wanted to give to the Parks Committee to have a starting point to talk about. So we would show our due diligence, knowing that there's gonna be back and forth and figuring this out. It's not gonna be figured out in one day. And it will likely look much different than the proposal you guys have in front of you. But we wanted to get a starting point. And I actually meant to do this first, but before I get back to that, I just wanted to thank Andrew Eiding and the crew at the ice rink for keeping that, working their butts off and keeping that rink open, I think 8 full weeks this winter. After not really being open much at all. And getting, I think, in those 8 weeks, might be like all-time high, at least as the records I've seen for skate rentals and participation out there, even without having room ball or the pond hockey tournament this year. So pretty great attendance out there. And I know that he does it by working a lot of late nights and early mornings when he can flood. So I really appreciate the work he did. We did a family fun day out there on the final day of the rink, and we had Piggly Wiggly donated brats and hot dogs and buns for that, and we grilled out and had an awesome day. 300 to 400 different people out there throughout the day, out on the rink. So to see it just packed with little kids and families was just an awesome thing to be a part of, and saw a lot of that this winter. And especially without having a lot of snow for a long stretch, having that rink open and even just those little snowbanks that they create on the edge of the rink, you saw a lot of kids having a lot of fun out there. So just wanted to thank them for that. But back to that operating agreement. Some of those things, like for expenses, those are just guesses. Like we put in there, village's ongoing contribution to expenses. We're basically saying whatever the village puts into the rink now, we see that continuing, but we, like this year, I think the village had budgeted $25,000 from the general fund for the rink, but or we don't know whether or not that includes things like the existing electric bill out there, the water bill, things like that, and what how that factors in, and also any parks time that goes into that. So we understand that those figures would be different as we would move forward on that. I submitted this before, but I wanted to remind the committee estimated staffing costs moving forward for this. If we are open, and you should have this somewhere in your file by now, but I can create this again for you. But I did 2 scenarios based on being open 5 nights a week and one being open 7 days a week. Anywhere from $23,000 to $30,000 for labor is what that adds up to. And then the electric cost for the chilling system installed could be anywhere from about 45,000 to 60,000 a year to create the ice surface, all depends on weather conditions. And that's broken down in the estimates we have, that's broken down by month based on our climate here. So those are some of the big numbers that folks have asked at various points. And if you guys have questions about that agreement, or if you want to go through it in detail, just figure we get it in front of you guys to discuss and move forward. And again, this is an operating agreement based on like building the new grid, right? Not us taking over the existing. or anything like that.
So Miles, with that in mind, what should we be doing? Just looking at these categories? And then your estimates, because this is really a pro forma, there's no real numbers in here, is that what you meant to say? Or are these rental numbers as an example from this year's rental for skates and things?
In here, I don't have the rental numbers.
Okay, okay, so this is just a,
This is like an
Just a
operating agreement for
template.
like, all right, we build this, right, how are we gonna build it? It's gonna be done through the village, it's village property, so our friends group will be working with the village to oversee the construction of the new rink. And then, moving forward, once it's built, who runs it, right? Like, so that's been a big question a lot of times at different meetings. So it'll be, our friends group is willing to take over the operations in coordination with the village. Similar to how SBAA coordinates with the village on hiring and running the bus system, or similar to how Egg Harbor cooperated with the nonprofit group to run the Crest Pavilion when they opened that. So we took this based on some other municipal agreements, one being the SBAA agreement, another being how Egg Harbor and the Crest Pavilion managed their facility once they got it completed. So they had a similar scenario.
so maybe I didn't ask my question clearly, I apologize. So that's what you just explained is the actual agreement, the content of the agreement. And then after the agreement, after the signature lines, you have templates, which look like they're pro forma P&Ls. Is that correct? Or is that actual numbers? I'm
Mike,
just trying to understand what those financials are.
Mike, are you referring to this?
Yes,
So I don't understand how that got behind the operating agreement. This is actually an attachment to Eric's staff report.
oh,
So I think when the packet was put together, they. I was confused.
No,
Yeah.
that is this year, that's probably this year's.
actual ice rink.
It's only
Because
for
it says
2
ice rink in the title, that's
It's
why I
only for
got
2
messed
months
up.
too.
Yeah.
Only a-
Oh, okay,
Somehow
sorry,
got messed up. in the packet.
not your issue.
The budget, however, is correct, because it's an annual budget on here. I think. So in that regard, it's right, the 45,000 that Miles quoted, 44,715 is right.
So Miles, in our attachment, there's this year's financials connected right in the
Right,
same
yeah.
document as your, that's why I was confused. Thank you.
So Miles, you guys are looking for you're filing for a 501c3,
Yes,
right? Okay.
It has been filed, I believe.
yes.
Okay,
We got
great.
files where, you gotta wait for the state and the IRS to come back with. That sometimes takes a few months, sometimes takes a year.
Okay, so a couple months to a year or so, okay. So we would be getting in, so in contractually, we'd be contracting with a 501c3, got it?
Correct.
Okay,
And there's templates for, some people have asked how insurance would work, we would take out insurance policy, they would have their insurance policy, so people, named jointly cover that facility for any programming or operations we would do, and then you guys have your insurance on the property just as you do now.
So I'm not sure who to ask this question of Luis, but what is the process gonna look like from this point? What happens next with this?
So, yeah, this is the draft operating agreement, right?
right.
So, technically, we don't have to vote on anything on this.
No,
right
it
now.
would- it would
This
need
is
to be-
for reference,
It would
right?
need to be fine tuned, I think this
Uh-huh.
is,
Yeah.
I can't answer for
uh-huh.
that.
Yeah, we're certainly not expecting a vote or anything tonight, this is something
Yeah.
we're you guys to consider, and probably direct it to staff, and we work with staff and refine some things, or maybe it's totally objectionable, like we just wanted to put something on the table and not ask you to put it on the table for. So
Thank you.
we wanted to bring it to the village and give a starting point to work from and show that like, those are the numbers that we understand to be there. There might be some stuff we don't know. And then our commitment is to raise funds, sponsorships, dollars, do fundraisers to cover that gap beyond whatever the village commits that in the ongoing, like the year-to-year basis. So once we go out and raise our $2.5 million to match the 500 that the village has committed, and we're in process of that. But once that's done, this is the agreement that then covers that problem. So,
And really, Miles, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at the agreement, the net of it is the village contributes utilities and $60,000. And the Friends of the Ice Rink kind of take care of the rest and, managing personnel, running it, supervising it, buying equipment, all of that.
that would be our, more or less our offer on the table, like how you want to judge like what the 60,000 commitment from the village goes to. But, or however we want to figure that out. But yeah, we'll go out and raise funds every year, and maybe, I shouldn't even say that 60,000 as like, that's the number, like, this is a
Oh,
discussion.
okay, a number.
But,
Village contributes a number, Friends of the
Yes.
Ice Rink do the majority of the legwork of
Yeah, we'll
running.
go out and
operating.
get sponsorships, not only, in addition to the capital campaign that we're in right now to raise the capital funds for the construction of this project. Then we would continue to exist and help in hiring with the village, hire the manager for the rink and additional staff as needed. And then to raise funds to support equipment purchases, upgrades, maintenance. Hopefully we raise enough to put away money for a rainy day fund, moving forward.
And then what would your view of how much input the village would have, like for membership fees or admissions or those kinds of things?
I think that would be a joint discussion agreement. I mean, there's some stuff that on paper looks like hard lines of like, you do this, we do this. And I mean, we see this as a collaborative project, but you do have to get stuff on paper, right? I would think our Friends group would want a village liaison to sit on our board and be part of that. So there's always somebody really in tune with what we're trying to do. And if there's, I think a lot of those fees, I don't think anybody wants to micromanage that stuff, but like, we want to make this place affordable. So I think from the village's standpoint, my guess is you'd want to make sure that's affordable for your residents and that we're free for your residents. And then, how do we go about doing that and make the dollars and cents work and all the way? And then we want to come up with operating procedures, because I know it's, flooding is an inexact science, but there are some standards of like how you want to do it. I know one rink manager at one time refused to do it at night, which really hurt the rink because it's really hard to run that rink as it exists now without flooding at night. So we want to have like standards. So like, all right, you're running the rink, here's how it works. And I think that's much better now than what, but that's just an example of something from the past. And operate it as good as best we can to create, something that can get to a point where maybe they just covers all of its costs year to year. We saw this year just with, just by doing a little bit of promotion, and our Friends group helped with a lot of that and helped with pushing stuff out on social. You can get, people are desperate for something to do in the winter, so.
Yep. So just a comment and a question. I did hear good feedback about the ice rink this season. So thanks for all the work that was put in there. Also, I heard great feedback about the family fun day. Just out of curiosity, what percentage would you say was between the 300-400 people that attended would have been local family?
I mean,
Is that just on that particular day?
on that particular day, I would guess 75 to, I mean, I'm sure there were some visitors who caught wind of it, but
Yeah.
it's just a ton of local families, a ton of the kids from daycare.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
the kids.
It was
Yeah, I
great.
just want to emphasize the importance that, rink will eventually be for a local community.
Yeah, I think, when I first I've been passionate about the rink for like 25 years. It's the first time I lost my teeth playing broom ball, but I always thought of it as like 90% about broom ball and hockey and 10% everything else. And maybe this is just a factor of having young kids, but now I'm out there and I realize it's 90% about kids and families with kids under 10. And it's 10% about hockey and broom ball, like, and those things drive a lot of revenue and use, but like, I mean, most days out there, it's just a bunch of young kids and a lot of young kids using that sledding hill as well. Running through the snow.
So with the perceived notion of the Friends Group taking over, the general day-to-day operations of the rink, I see in here, the village will assist in cleaning off snow off the rink. So kind of general practice right now is the village has invested some resources the last couple of winters for our skidster to assist the ice rink manager in cleaning off that snow.
Sure.
And I know, if there would be some kind of agreement to then maybe train Friends Group staffer then to operate village equipment or something like that. I don't know what your thoughts were on the assist.
Yeah, it could be that,
Cleaning
right.
off the ice rink right there.
and that again goes to like me not knowing all the ins and outs of how, what the parks department's contribution is to all that stuff, so that would be the discussion, whatever the village can do for that.
Right. And then also, we have village will clean and maintain restrooms. As far as, it goes right now, we definitely get in there and check and stock on Fridays. But with the season being as prolonged, and I'm assuming and hoping that the foot traffic would pick up to a level, like, we would probably have to be checking clean every day, per se. Would it be possible for, the Friends Group to come in and clean that on the weekends then? So that
Or-
stay on.
Or staff,
Probably
yeah.
not.
Staffing time for overtime then for the village guys not having. to do that.
Yeah, I think whatever, that's again, not me not knowing and us not knowing exactly how the area is cleaned or stuff, so we just put that in, but if that's something that you guys put on the rink manager, that can be put in there,
He
staff.
maintains it
I mean,
out through the weekend.
It's not a huge, I cleaned a lot of toilets in the day, so I would kind of expect that person to go in there just like,
Yeah, we provide all the cleaning supplies and a key to restock, the paper towel and the toilet paper. and
Yeah.
everything like
Okay.
that. Obviously, if there's a mess in there, yeah. we'll pick it up. And also, take out the trash. and everything. Those are just two little sub questions I have with that maybe we can work through moving forward.
yeah,
So Miles, your capital campaign is $2.5 million.
that's our main,
Pardon me?
that's our goal.
And is that a multi-year campaign or is it just, does it have a deadline?
It could be multi-year, I would love to raise it next month and break ground and get this thing going next winter. And we do have several, I would call them warm leads in sales vernacular on that. But it could be. Yeah, and we've been meeting and working with the community foundation on this. It could be that we hit a couple of big donors right away and we're coming back to you and saying, we can do this year, let's go. And pushing, or it could be that it's a 2-year process, but I don't anticipate.
Well, here,
If we are not building this thing for the winter, at least of 26, I would be very disappointed and frustrated with myself.
well, hear me out. I mean, what I was trying to get to is I've been with other organizations where when you have these challenges, there is a schedule that's kind of in the agreement that says when you raise X, you get a commitment of Y. And then when you keep raising and the money gets set aside so that there's an opportunity to maybe even begin before you get to the full 2.5 million. I mean, is that something that has been discussed or talked about, or I'm not sure
Yes.
what the board, I mean, I know I've heard that there's a kind of a verbal commitment of this 500,000 if you raise the 2.5. But is there actually an agreement for that that's been signed, or is that just a
No, there's
handshake
no
right now?
agreement. just, and maybe we do need to have one, I don't, that's a good question.
From the village.
Just that it's in the budget,
That one's approved.
it's approved in the budget, but as far as a contractual thing, we don't have that.
Okay,
I think we sent a pretty clear message to you when you came in and put it out to November and said,
Yeah.
you guys really gonna do this? You said, no, go start doing this. And
Yes, yeah, but that's my understanding, if the village needs a contract or something, then.
I'm just saying, Nate, the example would be, it's pretty binary, if they gotta get to the 2.5 million to get the 500,000. Is there like, at their halfway point, can they earn the half of that to get the project started? That was where I was kind of going to.
Yeah, because he would need, generally how these firms work is 50% down at contract, 20% at start date, you know.
So you've hired a professional fundraiser.
We are working with the Door County Community
Okay.
Foundation, and they're kind of our,
Professional fundraiser.
yes.
Okay,
And then, but yeah, as far as that contract, so like you could, you need a certain amount down at certain points, so, and then generally how these things work is you take pledges, like sometimes you'd have someone giving, say, 500,000 over 3 years. And you work with, like I've talked to Nicolay Bank about this, they finance and carry that until all the pledges
Okay.
come in. And the Door County Community Foundation, one of the great services they do, they manage like making sure you get those.
so you've already thought that through.
Yeah, the best is, I can't, I mean, we'll have a few questions, but these are all great questions.
So Miles, in order to keep moving forward on this, for your group to keep moving on forward, just aside from establishing a 501(c)(3), it's 501(c)(3), what other information do you need from us? It doesn't, I know there's some of the financials that you don't have visibility to, but is that it?
I guess,
I think maybe just too, that if you guys are willing for this type of arrangement, that you're willing for the Friends group to take over the operations. I think that's kind of, if that's your arrangement you're okay with. We know we
Yeah.
can move forward, keep moving forward in that direction,
Mhm.
or if you'd rather the village, maintain the operations, but it's something that I know our group is very interested in doing.
yeah,
And then-
that's a really good point. It's like, we're not saying like, we must take over. We're saying we are willing to do this. Or to make this project, 'cause we know like operating the thing has always been a question of how much is the village gonna have to do and how do we maintain and support it in future years, and we're just saying our group of a lot of very dedicated people who've done a lot for the community and done a lot of this fundraising and other organizations is saying we are willing to do it and assist in any way we can. And this is a framework. If this is not a framework the village wants to pursue, then we can pursue a different framework, right?
Okay.
And that's kind of what this is for us to do.
Okay.
And then I think having staff look at it and be like, there might be glaring holes in it, right, that we haven't thought of, and this is a chance for, or this is just a starting point for the committee and the staff to say, oh, you haven't thought about this, or what happens if this happens, like, that's what we want.
Okay, so if Parks has consensus that this is this something then that would move to the board, or do we need something more fully flushed out than what before that?
We would
happens?
need a final agreement to send
Yeah.
it.
Okay, all right. Okay,
And does the village attorney then review the document from?
The final.
Well, something I heard that I just want to have clarity on is that $60,000 and there's a placeholder. And you're just saying that we would, whatever the village had been contributing or doing, paying to operate the existing ice rink, that's what we put as a starting point.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out from working with you guys, is what is that number, and make sure we're all included, because we wouldn't want to say like, all right, it's 40 grand, that's what we're gonna do, and then we found out later that like, well, yeah, we're not plowing the driveway, because that's not part of the agreement, and now, but that would have been 20 grand a year. I think, like, we want to make sure we have all those things accounted for, so we're not hit with something unexpected. But yeah, that's basically the starting point, and, you know, at the end of this, you know, hopefully this is a really good collaborative project where both, you know, if we're coming and we give a $2.5 million to a $3 million facility for the village. We're hoping the village is like, yeah, we want to keep investing in it. But yes, that's our basic starting point, is at least what the village is putting forward on an annual basis now, because you're gonna have a much better product.
Okay, so then I would ask Parks, do we have a consensus that we think an operating agreement, not necessarily this one, but a
Mhm.
version of, is a good idea to have with the Friends of the Ice Rink?
I think there should be an operating agreement. We would obviously have to, take the time to review this one and fine tune it and whatnot, but yeah, there should be one in place.
Okay,
Well, I've already, that we were here to do was to fine tune it today. And send it back to you. So can I take you through the questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
That I have? So under section 1.2 termination number 3. It talks about the joint review by the Village Parks and Facilities Committee. It should probably be Parks, Property and Streets. That's the real name of our committee. Then under section 3.1, snow removal and grounds maintenance. B, the village will clean and maintain restrooms. And this is applying only to the current building that's there. Miles?
Yeah,
Okay. Page 14, number 4, financial reporting. Friends shall submit an annual financial report to the village board detailing revenues, expenses, and planned improvements. Would, is that something that we should have, the finance committee for budgeting purposes, as expenses go up? Let's use the $60,000, but now there's inflation, costs have gone up, so we're gonna give you 62 and we need to, adjust our budget for how much we have. So can we get that, a certain time as the finance committee works through their budget? I think it would be good to have the specific month in there.
sure. Is there a,
Preferably, what would you think, Julie? July?
July is usually when.
yeah, I think I had it in my head as, or we had it in our head as like a pre-season and post-season meeting just to answer any, it might be pro forma or whatever, but just an opportunity to and to show that we will provide reports.
Okay. Section 4.2, transition of operations, again, Village Parks, Property and Streets Committee. Budgeting 5.2. Friends shall submit an annual financial report to the village detailing A, B, and C. Again, would we want that in July, or would you give it to us when the season is over, like in April? I think there should be a month associated with that.
I think we could probably
I think probably at end of season, while it's still fresh, and as far as, I wouldn't know how long it would take for certain bills to come through to just make sure that we had all the right stuff in that, so.
yeah,
I don't know if you guys have.
maybe May is a good
May.
time. That
Yeah,
is
that's fine.
It's still fresh, make sure everything's in there.
Okay, a joint budget review shall occur annually. I think maybe then we go back to the July. Month of July for that. To discuss future needs and potential village contributions.
Sure.
Okay. 8.3 notices. No, Miles, I don't think you should get the mail at your home. Friends of Sister Bay Ice Rink, address Miles, question mark. I think if you're filing for a 501c3, I think you should probably have your own PO box.
Oh,
It's on page 16.
Yeah, well,
That-
once we get one.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Right now, as a registered agent, it's my address.
Okay.
but
Okay. And then just under that, the signatures, it says Friends of Sister Bay Ice Rink by who would sign a document specifically. Who would that be?
That would be me.
So, yeah, it cuts down the page, the next page, so it'd be our president,
President,
just
okay.
currently.
Okay,
And for any-
Which I unfortunately don't foresee changing.
Yeah.
So I have a process question. These are all good points you're making, Denise, but I assume these guys gave us this template, which is their proposal, and they used other agreements as a baseline. I would assume this now goes to our village attorney to take a look at it with Julie before it's finalized and will come back to this committee for approval.
Yeah, the way I would like to see it done is put into the villages format, so all our templates are the same. All of our contracts read kind of the same formatting. And then I do think there's some things we should sit down with Miles and get squared away before we finalize it. There's some things I have a question that's, just for clarification, some stuff sounds kind of duplicative.
I agree, yeah, there's definitely.
There's a couple on the
redundant.
financial piece that are duplicative, yeah.
Yeah, so we'd want to work through that and then bring it to the committee. If the committee's okay with it, then we'd send it to the attorney. If he's okay with it, it goes to the board.
Okay, so
but I'm bringing up these suggestions so that they can change
Yeah,
the
they're good ones.
document before they,
Yeah, they're
before
good.
they bring it back. And would go to legal review. A question for you, Julie, pertaining to something that Eric said. Would it even, I don't know if legal's the wrong word, for the Friends group to operate village equipment? I mean, normally that's if you're not a village employee.
Right, so interestingly, this came up, we had a conversation about the Zamboni. Because we found out the Zamboni is out there and, you know, I had some liability concerns. For somebody to operate the village equipment, the insurance would cover that. We'd want some volunteer forms signed though. Waiving the village of any liability. So if something would happen to that person, we're covered. So there's some legal stuff that has to be on just the agreement that has to be looked at.
probably got to limit who can do it too, just for the rest of the list.
Right, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happens right now that needs to be cleaned up. For example, when people are volunteering out at the ice rink, they're supposed to be signing volunteer forms. Make sure we don't get in trouble if somebody falls or something happens. So a lot of it and this is a good opportunity to clean all of that up and make sure everybody's aware of what they're supposed to be doing
Is that
to protect the village.
we could include in the operating agreement, is that volunteer forms need to be signed?
Right, yeah, the ice rink manager knows that right now, but I think getting it in an agreement
Mhm.
protects the village because
Yeah.
somebody can't come back and say, I didn't know.
Mhm.
And I think, I don't know, I think our intent too was to make sure, or was to have it similar to, how the shuttle bus runs, is that the whoever's employed at the ice rink would still be a village employee with the management, like their manager or the oversight being the Friends of the Ice Rink Committee. I guess, I'm not sure, right?
Yeah, in general, we
But
thought
yeah,
that,
we're open, but that was at least our,
yeah, it would still be a village employee jointly hired, like we could be. However, we
In
want
this
to keep
case, it
that.
was Andrew reported.
Andrew reports to Eric.
I know that, but I think in this case, if they're doing the operating of it and Andrew's operations. then-
I think that's something we have to talk about.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
That's why Ellie made the reference to the bus.
And yeah, for operating equipment, yeah, whatever we need to do, if only certain people use it, that's great. Like we have a skid steer for the pulse and only 2 people use it. That totally makes sense. And I think with the Peninsula State Park, you sign waiver forms, same thing, volunteers can go in there and use a chainsaw and clear brush and everything like that. They have to go through a training and then they have to sign a waiver. I think it would be something similar to that if I don't anticipate like 10 different people running a Zamboni or a skid steer or anything like that.
And then Article 7.1, where you've got a joint oversight committee, so it's established to guide. Not build, not run, not operations, budgeting and dispute resolution, which is great. So but in it is village representatives, so it's plural, so more than one. And then, and friends leadership, which would be yourself, I think, and you know, whomever else. So in that role, sorry, that committee's role is not necessarily building a budget, not necessarily, but just. So maybe a little bit more of an explanation for
Sure.
what their role would be, and particularly if we have a village representative, so if that's a village representative, it's a village trustee. So if it's a trustee, then it's another committee and just understanding, you know, what that role would be.
So would that go with, because you mentioned you would, you know,
Have a liaison?
potentially like a
Yeah.
liaison,
Mhm.
would that fall into this point here? Or in
Not
this
sure exactly
subcommittee,
which point
or
you're looking at.
would that be?
7.1, Miles.
7.1. So.
Yeah, and I certainly don't wanna create a committee if we don't have to, like more stuff for the village to do, so if that's just properties with us, or if that's a liaison on our committee, I think we needed something, that's sort of a placeholder, so if you have a recommendation for that, that's different, but it was basically us saying like, yes, it should be, overseen if any disputes arise.
I think liaison would probably do it, in particular if we've outlined, you know, the required in both 7.2 and also in item 4 in 3.2, which is financial reporting, so post season and then so budgeting and stuff. If that's gonna come through parks anyway, then I think a liaison is probably sufficient.
I mean, going back to the SBAA example, I think there's a good dynamic there with having a liaison that's reporting back, you know, to commit or participating in committee reports at the board.
Mhm.
I think that works out good. Could be a similar model with Friends of the Ice Rink.
Yeah, is that something we should look at, is just like exactly what FBAA does in that situation as.
So is your committee right now, do you have designated people like, work at the bird chair?
Yeah.
Yes, and okay, so if you already have a structure, I think it only makes sense to just have a village liaison there. Instead of doing a subcommittee. You know, it's just for work,
Yeah. That would want
More
to really
steps,
have to schedule
yeah.
another meeting.
right?
Right, they attend your meetings, report back to the board, and when we have committee reports, just as Lily does for the SBAA. You know, then the board is brought up to speed on a monthly basis, if you guys have had a meeting, what's going on.
Okay.
And then, in addition, then there's gonna be at least 2 financial budget discussions with parks and then, possibly finance and then the board. If that works. Yeah? Okay. So it sounds like, do you guys have your notes on what, do we want to redo it and then submit it back to them? Do they redo it, give it to us?
I
Because
think
want
we
it in
should
our
put in-
template. Okay. So if we want it in our template, the changes we just talked about, we'll make and send to you, Miles.
You, so we should not edit.
Right.
At this point, okay.
It'll be a different format, but it'll be the same, but with the exception of the good suggestions that Denise made and stuff and other things we discussed.
We could, yeah.
Do you want us to send, like a working file that's easier to like copy and paste into
A
your
Word
format?
doc,
Or
yeah.
is what we sent okay?
Did you send it as a PDF or Word doc? A Word doc would be preferred.
I think Miles said it was PDF, we said, so we can get a Word doc over to you.
Okay.
And just to note, I don't think you guys had this meeting before, the last time I came to the committee. I did meet with a couple representatives from the pickleball, folks, and they are all about this, and I was asking them if the surface for this type of facility would work for their uses. And they said yes, and they fully support it and would love to see this done to eliminate conflict between the tennis players and the pickleball players. So just to let you know, we have had that discussion, that would not add to the cost at all for
Okay.
us to have them set up, bring their nets out in the summertime. So
What about striping it though? There's a cost there.
driving, there's a possibility that, I have to look at it in more depth as we get through it, to the actual construction phase, but like they have. The ice rink, what I've learned is there is like a lot of rinks, what they do is lay down like an inch of ice, and then they actually have a perforated plastic sheet that goes in next, and then you ice over that, so you don't have to paint. That's how they get the lines and everything in the ice that looks so great, even in NHL arenas, it's actually in a
Ah,
film that's in the middle.
okay,
So if that is the case and we went that route. And the reason they do that is because it makes the ice great and then it reflects the sun, so you don't get the melt from that too. But that means you could paint the surface potentially for pickleball underneath that. And so once the ice is on, you just have a pickleball court
gotcha.
or basketball court or whatever.
Okay,
I think the only other thing that we want to make sure we define is what jointly planned for major construction projects like a new warming house or whatever would be, so that we know, is it friends give input, Parks votes on it, friends want to vote on that, like to clearly define what the expectation is there.
Sure. And that's just a way of saying like. Again, we don't expect to plan a building. For the village without.
But you want to have input.
But we would want to have,
Yeah.
obviously, at least for anything that would be. Ice rink needs and warming house needs, and we'd be, raising money for that too, but we'd want to be a part of. Like, if it were a building that had two different uses, like, the other wing. Belongs to the village for whatever they needed, that's,
Yeah, we just want to
We have
define
input,
what
but like-
be a part of means.
okay. Thanks.
thank you,
All right,
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
you bet. Okay, item 5B, beach water quality sign revision. Tim is with us. If we have questions. Okay. So, Julie, we got some changes, right?
Right, we had approved a 36-inch by 44-inch beach water quality sign. I'm sorry,
We'd approve 22 by
we approved,
44.
we
The
approved
actual
22.
36 by 44.
Right, we approved 22 by 44, which fits on the wall of the pavilion where we were gonna locate it. Because we only have 30 inches of space, so it fit. And Tim got a hold of me to say they were not able to build the smaller signs or get the smaller signs, they are larger. So Tim, why don't you just kind of explain what happened, why you're going with the 36 by 44, why you couldn't have the smaller signs, and how that all worked out once you went to order them.
All right, and I'd like to apologize for this conundrum here. I spoke with the manufacturer today, and we do now have authorization to go back with a smaller sign of the 22 by 44 inch. So the last time we talked, it was going to have to be large, but I was able to make this work at 22 by 44 inches to go with what you originally agreed to before this meeting.
So it's no longer an issue then, Tim? Sounds like
It's no longer an issue, and I can place that order very soon with the sign dimension of 22 by 44 inches. I apologize, but it's good news. It's back to what you were hoping for.
It's good news, thanks.
Thanks for resolving that.
Thanks for trying, appreciate it. And the electric's
You're
already good to go, huh, Eric?
Yes.
It's hooked up there, great. Okay, Tim, thanks very much.
You're welcome. And may I place that order then?
Yes.
We are good to go, right? Just to
approved.
confirm. Okay, good. Just want to make sure. All right. I will keep you up to date with the status of it. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Agenda item 5C, park vendor proposals.
Okay, so we're looking at our 3-year contracts for the park vendors. They operate out of Waterfront and then of course at the sports complex. So Heidi had emailed the RFPs to the vendors that we did have. And then we ran an ad in the paper for, I think it ran 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And we did hear from Glide again, which is one of our current operators. And then Peninsula Kayak, who has worked in conjunction with our previous vendor. And then we have a new vendor, Current Vending Company, which you do see all the RFPs are in your packet. I do have one change though. Current Vending Company, I did reach out to her last week and I said, look, the other vendors do give us a percentage of their sales. I think you should address that. So they did get back to me and they did change their RFP. I got it. They would give 7% of their sales revenue to the village. So we do have that change. So those were the 3 that we heard from. That's it.
So, why, are they 5% now? And they're,
I'd have to go back and look at it,
I'm
Louise.
pretty sure that they're 10 and I would not want to renew them for 5. I think we always talked about when we set this up that 10% was fair and should be across the board. So
I think Glide was 10. I think, if memory serves me correctly, I thought they came to a meeting and said they thought they really weren't making a lot of money by providing that service in Sister Bay. Does anybody remember that meeting?
I do. Yeah, well, because, and I think they mentioned that, I think Sister Bay was one, did they say, I think the only one, or one, it was the most they paid, or I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that.
But remind me where they operate out of again?
Besides us,
No, Glide, where do they operate?
Say where the doors?
Forest complex.
It's the Forest Complex, right?
So that does not surprise me, Denise, if it was dropped. That's probably why they dropped it, is I'm guessing. I don't know.
So out of these 3 proposals, we need, I mean, if we were to accept today, we have to pick one of the 3.
You can pick them all if you want.
there's space,
You
yeah,
could-
there's space for all, I mean, one, what do we have
Yeah.
now? We have Segway now,
Yeah,
and we currently have Bayshore Outfitters that runs kayaks.
Right, and those are all done. So those contracts are expired.
gotcha.
So, and we don't have any kind of vending thing with the exception of the soda machine next to Village Hall.
Can I just ask now, do any of them use energy other than the vending company, or are they covering? Is this fee to cover the cost, or what's the thinking on the fee?
So the kayak people, no, they really don't use any electricity or anything. I'm not aware of why they would either. But what happens is so what we do is in order to allow a business to operate in our park system, because it enhances the opportunity people have when they're in the park, but then they also give something back to the village, like it's rent, for example. So when you're over at the marina, of course, those operators, they're paying a fee to provide those services out of the marina. It's the same thing. If you're operating out of the park, we allow you to do so, but then you give something back to the village. So it has always been, like Denise said, it's always been 10%. So the former kayak people did 10, Segway did 10. Glide is saying they want to do it now, but drop it to 5. Current is 7. And then Peninsula Kayak would be 10. And you can approve all, none, make recommendations, make them contingent, bring them back.
I mean, how much do we yield from this? I'm just curious, rough numbers. I don't expect you to know the exact.
I don't know enough stuff.
I think it was in last month's packet and it was like on the order of hundreds of dollars, but not.
I mean, I wondered if it was just worth our hassle and theirs, to even ask them for it, is what I was wondering. Because that was my guess, and I thought I saw that, but I couldn't remember for sure. It's only a few $100s, and these are small businesses.
Well, it adds up. I mean.
But they are getting preferential treatment for use of village.
Yeah.
property.
I mean, and they should be paying for any cost we incur, that I think makes
Well,
sense.
in the fact that, there are people that come at different times and want to operate out of the park, and we say, I'm sorry, we have commercial vendors, we do request for proposals. We
Yeah.
want, so otherwise. I think the argument could be made, it's not fair to let them operate for free. Why don't they just rent space like all the other businesses have to? So there should be some type of rent or something in there.
And I think to Denise's point, it makes sense for us to have a standard for what we're charging, because if it's each business gets their own different thing, that
Mhm.
leaves you open to problems.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think there should be a standard percentage.
I think that's fair.
I
and I
have-
think-
No problem moving forward with,
Staff
you know,
report,
the kayak
concession
and
agreement,
and glide.
page 19,
Shush.
date, January 6th,
Thank you.
2025.
I'm being quiet now.
To-
Sorry, go ahead.
But I'm not necessarily in favor of, the vending. I know it's something different. Exactly where would it be placed? It's just not. I just don't care for that.
So Bayshore Outdoor Store, in 22 was $3,600. In, 20, looks like,
That was the 10% number.
um, and it's roughly, the last 3 years, it's been between 3,000 and 3,500.
For all of them or just for?
Or just the kayak.
Bayshore Outdoor Store.
Which would be the kayaks.
Kayak. So, yeah, my comment is, as far as the vending machine goes. I mean, it's a cool kind of interesting idea. The assortment is eclectic. So it's jewelry that maybe is locally made. But it's a bit of a competition for our existing, for our existing businesses. I don't know, I'm just a little, I think we should do Segway, I think he should pay 10%. And I like
Kayaks is a good option.
yeah, I think kayak's a great option, they run a great business and I like. And I know the family of the business and they'll do a great job. And we need outdoor rec and outdoor activities at that beach,
I just have
so.
one comment regarding the vending machine. I don't think I've brought this up before, but I've had a few people complain to me about the soda vending machine over by the village hall.
It's not working.
No, just how bad it looks. I got, some people just don't like
Oh.
visually how that machine looks there. I have no comment, I
Yeah.
mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But I can see like people
I
saying,
believe
oh,
it's managed by the fire.
is it?
It is?
I think.
And they've asked if we could move it, and I keep forgetting to bring it up. I don't know if that's parks or who
No.
manages that. Yeah.
I think.
It is
as-
the fire department
It is the
and
fire
they
department.
use that money and it goes towards their annual dinner every year that they
Okay.
have
Mm.
for the
Every annual winter.
department and the fire board and any guests that they invite to that.
Mhm. Okay. That was just it, nothing.
Yeah, aesthetically, maybe not the best fit,
Aesthetically, yeah.
but, I'm all for Segway, it's fair, they should pay 10% when everybody else is paying. It's arguable, I don't think it's fair, but I think it is, and definitely the kayaks, kitchen concession thing. I'm with Denise, I'm not sure about.
I think they
Anybody
mentioned
have
5
any other opinions?
bathrooms because it's lighted over there, but.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where there's space without further obstructing. some
Did they
of
give us
those walkways.
dimensions? You know what, if they did, I gotta look that over, did
I
they
don't
give us
think they give
dimensions?
dimension. But we already know that area is congested and keeping people on the sidewalk has been a big problem, so adding another thing there would be detrimental to that goal.
Yeah, I don't see,
Annie Geithner has her hand raised.
okay. This is, sure. Annie?
Annie, there you go.
I'm sorry, that's my sister-in-law's account. It's actually Robert Geithner, Peninsula Kayak Company.
Hi,
So,
Rob.
hey, yeah, we're happy. We historically just worked with the previous group Bayshore, and 10% was just kind of the run of the mill, what we assumed. We had a really good year in 2020, and I think that was near 5,000 that we gave to the town. If there were anything that you guys wanted to restructure, you let us know, but we really like the 3-year agreement at least because we do have a significant investment in boats that we buy just for this location. So, and we have, like I said, we provided an insurance policy, a blanket policy for just that location as well. So sorting that out does take quite a bit of time. So, and if there were things that you guys like to see or would like more of, we had a sign up last year that didn't meet specifications, so we took it down right away. But if there's anything, we're really open to whatever you guys like to see down there. We run a very tight ship, no pun intended. Like I said, our contract that we put forward, it just kind of reflects how it's been throughout the years. So if you wanted, I know you had mentioned e-bikes or anything else, you just need to let us know because we really haven't been, this contract normally operated through Bay Shore. So they were the ones that normally were the parent company. So but like I said, we've been there for 4 years. So if there are things that you guys would like to see, any changes, or we always keep the sidewalk clean and we keep a minimum space. So just let us know, and we're happy to work with you on anything you need.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Rob, what did you mention about e-bikes?
Last year we actually purchased our first set of e-bikes because it was becoming such an interesting, everyone is really interested in doing e-bikes simply because of the dynamic weather of Door County. So we have one fleet of brand new e-bikes we purchased last year that are in Jacksonport. And we saw it somewhere where you mentioned e-bikes, that'd be something you might be interested in. So if that was the case, that you guys would like to pursue that, I would just need to know in the next month to get a policy that covers Sister Bay, and then we would have to buy, additional bikes for that area. But it did lend itself. My business partner is there today. I don't have daycare. I apologize. I'm home right now. But Dane is there if you wanted to elaborate. But if that was something that you guys were interested in and wanted to work out a situation with e-bikes, we would probably just need a little more space for that. But that's something we could also offer, and it would be brand new equipment. And our insurance is very, very tight. And, we have an aggregate policy of $2 million, a $1 million policy on each individual. So we really are covered. So we could, like I said, work with you if that was something you'd be interested in as well. It doesn't have to be done today, but just like I said, we're negotiating a new policy for 2025 here for these e-bikes. So we just need to know if that was something you guys would be interested in, so we could reach out to our underwriters to get that, added onto the policy. So
to bring you up to speed, we had the Friends of the Ephraim Airport or something like that come and talk to us last year about having a place here in Sister Bay. And it didn't end up panning out for a multitude of reasons. One of them was because, probably the biggest reason was because village staff would have to maintain the bikes and other things. And we just felt that it's a great private business, but the village didn't need to get involved in that. I think I certainly would be interested in seeing a proposal from you and how much space you would need and whatever. I don't know how any other committee member feels about that, but.
Yeah, it would have been an interesting addition, but again, the onus would have been on the village to run and operate it like a business, and that just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Sounds like we've got a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that idea.
and I think they never really came back. So yeah, I guess the first thing would be, where would they be? So where would where would they check, where would you check them out from? How many would there be? So where would we, where would they be located?
If we did it, it'd be probably right next to the kiosk where people check in.
Yeah.
The awning.
Yeah,
We probably need to build a box next to the little area they created there, and start with like a half dozen or so.
so they leave, and then when they leave, then they're not right on 42. They go out that path. Okay.
Yeah, they go out the back way.
Yep,
Could you put a proposal together?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, we could.
I definitely would like to.
Yeah, we can put down like the footprint we need, how many bikes, and then, we can submit the information about how we operate that in our Jacksonville location as well.
Where is it in Jacksonport?
We're across from Island Fever.
Right, I know where you are, but where are the bikes?
Oh, inside our shop.
Oh, in the shop?
Yeah, so it's,
Okay.
we have a dozen in there that we rent out.
Okay, so do they have to be inside?
They don't have to be, but if they're up there, we'd probably want to build something to enclose them because, rent theft or people messing with them.
Or an overhang or a specific spot just to store the batteries at night that can be locked up.
Okay, you need to make sure that you, because we need to know that, and we need, if it's a structure, that'll be more, it's a little more challenging.
Yeah.
So however, if it's like, I don't know, a tent or something that is temporary or, you
So
know,
it'd be temporary, it'd be comparable to the boxes we have currently. So, yeah, it'd be like probably like a plywood box that we can lock up.
for the batteries, you mean?
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
batteries
we're
at
in a
least,
house
but usually, we keep, that's why we keep our bikes inside versus outside.
Yeah,
And to prevent like effects of weather and whatnot as well.
Yeah.
We have to have power there.
Yes,
There is
Yeah,
power
yeah.
on the main house, we would have to have access to it, over that, there's also an idea for solar, but.
Is there,
Your names for the minutes, please.
I'm Dane Spitzer,
Okay, Dan Spencer.
Spitzer.
Okay, thank you.
And then Michelle, last name Schneider.
Okay, thank you.
is there any room in the pavilion storage, or is that all jam-packed full?
pretty packed. Yep, I'm not, it's still pretty packed, right?
It's still very packed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The only place where there could be, but I don't know, and Eric's not here, is the other storage area that's down below, right on the beach, where it always seemed to have a lot of space. Because what was in there was garbage cans, but I don't know what's there now.
Yeah, that's my key didn't work last year, so I don't, in that bottom.
I mean, that's a question
So
for
don't
Eric. I
know
mean,
what's
you,
in
you
there.
probably don't need that much space for the batteries. I don't know what you need for the bikes, but
No, I mean, the batteries could almost, I mean, I'd have to look at it, but they could probably fit in the little kiosk we have currently.
Oh.
But the bikes, yeah, probably be almost double the size of that footprint, because I mean, e-bikes are fairly
well, we need
wide.
to know the space and then we can see
Well, I
what,
think that would be part of our
Parks is using.
proposal, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that would be in the proposal, we'd have a
Yeah.
blueprint for like,
Dimension.
yeah, dimensions and everything, and then probably we'd go to the beach and measure, and just so you
Yeah.
guys could see what it looked like if it was actually in place.
I mean,
Or
if you
keep-
don't want a plywood box, could you get a 6 bike rack and just buy one of those 6 bike covers?
Yeah, yeah, we could do
And
that.
that looks very neat.
Yeah, we could do something that more.
You might be able to leave the keys you might be able to leave the batteries in them then, but you're gonna need something to connect the power.
Yeah,
Okay, so as much detail as you can give us, like how much space you need, where hours of operation, which I guess maybe would be the same as kayaks.
we could include both too, like what it looked like with a little structure or versus a bike rack,
Mhm.
so we could give you options,
Okay,
which. would be-
okay,
Yeah,
And-
we had talked to you a couple years ago, but potentially a more permanent structure that we would move off the beach, but we never got back with Bayshore, never got back to us. We submitted some ideas for a good looking little structure, but like I said, I don't know what's legally allowed down there. It would still obviously be movable, but you know, even 6 e-bikes would be really nice to start off with the season to be with less congestion and kind of get your feet wet kind of thing we were thinking. And then we wouldn't need much storage per se. So, but yeah, we could come up with some documentation for you.
okay. Are they family friendly? Do you have them where the kids can be on the bikes with the parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually ordered them this year. The car seats for the back. So two different types of bikes, one for the 2 and younger for the seat in the back, and then one for 2 to 6 years old.
That's important. Okay, and if you can let us know, just more on curiosity, what the rates are, that kind of thing, just so we have a general idea of
Yeah, that
you
would
know,
be.
what it's gonna be. Okay. So we meet again April 7th.
All right.
So if you want to move along and get that
Okay, yeah,
to us by the end of March, so it can go in the packet, that would be ideal.
okay, yeah, we can definitely do that.
So I think back to the discussion of vendors, it seems like we want to standardize on 10% of gross
I
or whatever
think
the
it's up to
number
you,
is.
but I think
I
that's
think that sounds fair.
what we all said.
Does that cover the electrical demand? I mean, I would think it would, but Julie, how do we think
Well,
about that? And
right
we'd have
now-
to install probably power near them too, right?
Yeah, so right now, the two that we're considering, or the three that we're looking at today. Of Glide and Peninsula Kayak, there's not a, there's no electricity involved.
Okay.
So with those, we're just looking at 10% of their sales. I think if somebody comes back with an e-bike proposal, that's definitely something we have to look at. You know, I know with the current vending company, the third one that submitted a proposal, they were looking at $20 to $40 a month to cover electricity. I think we'd have to figure out what the charge would be.
You guys know what
If
the
there's
cost
even-
is per bike usually?
Electricity, no,
Yeah,
we can figure that out.
If we get membership, it's very low. They only
Yeah.
charge really well.
because it's not very much. More.
1 kilowatt hour will charge 2 batteries generally,
Yeah,
charge battery twice, so you're looking at about 5-6 cents a charge.
yeah, and usually a charge, you can go out for almost whole day. Yeah, because we'll do tours over in Jacksonport and they can do 2 on the same charge. It's usually about 2 hours apiece.
So on the current vending company, then, do you want them to come back so they can explain their proposal more? What do you want to do with that? Or just say
Not
no?
for me.
No?
What do you
Really
guys
feel
think?
strongly about that one.
Jerry?
I don't feel strongly about it either. I would defer to.
Again, in the proposed location, I don't see any spot that we could do without disrupting traffic.
Okay, so then I would say that at this point, we don't think it's a good fit. Happy to talk to them again, maybe, or maybe in a very different location or something, but not.
We didn't ask them, right? These were unsolicited proposals that they sent.
Well,
Right.
there was an ad put out, right? And
There
then
was.
These are the
was.
proposals that came in.
At some point, maybe, you know, the sports complex, but at the moment, not at the beach.
And not by the restrooms.
Okay, all right, thanks, everybody. Thank you. We'll hear from you soon. Thanks, Rob.
So do you want me to prepare these other two to go to the board for contract?
Yeah, and then we'll wait and see what the e-bike looks like.
Okay, so is this your motion then? The Parks, Property and Streets Committee recommends that the village board accept the proposals that were submitted by Clyde and EW LLC and Peninsula Kayak that were reviewed at this meeting as presented on the condition that they shall be amended in such fashion that proceeds of 10% of gross sales will be required from both companies. And direct staff members to see that applicable contacts are drafted and executed in as timely a fashion as possible. That's okay.
Motion. Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, Denise, or thank you, Janelle. Okay, next up is item number 5D. This would be the discuss RFP for Highway 57 trip.
Right, so we did a request for proposals on the trail for the engineering portion of it, and we did not have any proposals.
How often does that happen? Is that typical or?
Sometimes it depends on the project. So Sister Bay, depending on the project, sometimes we don't get a lot of bids. Sometimes we get 6, which is a lot for us. On this one, I was a little concerned with it because you had somebody else do the conceptual plan. You're gonna have somebody else engineer it, and you're gonna have somebody else come in and do the construction oversight.
So it can't be the person or whoever did the conceptual plan, is that it has to be separate?
it would, they could, but they would have to do the contract, you know, they would have to bid on it, like the RFP and engineering.
But they didn't, the conceptual planner didn't bid,
Right, he came back and he said, look, we did the design, but these projects are very intense. They require a lot of skill. We don't have that on their staff in Door County. So they opted not to bid on the project. So
That's why we didn't get it. Is that what you think?
yeah, they require, right, because they require, you know, you're looking at environmental reviews and a lot of things. And the DOT projects are, you're following federal guidelines on those, on this trail project. So it's a very big project. So, So anyway, I talked to the woman at the DOT and she said, okay, our option is to do the quality-based service road. And so with that one, the engineer can also do the construction management, meaning there's more value, they can bid higher, it's worth more to them, I think.
Because they have more pieces of it.
Right. Because then who's ever engineering it is also overseeing the construction to make sure it's done the way they engineer. So her recommendation was to do that. She sent me some templates, I got them today, to send those out. So that's what I'll do. I do know that there is one firm that is interested in doing it as a QBS. So that's good. And it'll only go to the list of the people on the DOT's approved engineer list. These are the ones that they know can do the engineering and the construction management and understand the federal guidelines. And
Julie, can I ask
then,
you-
after we have that selected, then we'll work with that engineer to get the easements, because you don't get the easements until we have the engineer.
Yeah,
So is it automatically a DOT project? Even if we had access to everyone's property because we're going over we're crossing the road?
It's a DOT project because they're funding it.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah, if
that,
we stayed on private property and didn't need any money from them, we wouldn't even be working. with them.
okay,
but that's where the 900 grand came from.
Right. Mhm.
So we don't have a choice, that's what we'll do, and it's gonna, it says, if it's like it's more complicated and restrictive, to me, sounds like it takes more time. Yep,
Right.
all right,
So
on,
you are going the QBS road, it just,
Right, like I said, she sent me the template.
it's in process.
Yeah, our other option is to give the money back, and the public has
Is that
been
an
pretty
option?
clear they want the trail,
so
so.
not an option, okay. Agenda item 5E, reuse of current parks / maintenance facility and property at 2313 Mill Road.
So this was referred from the finance committee. They wanted the parks and parks, property and streets committee to discuss this and also wayfinding signage, which we'll do at a different meeting. But we'll start with this one and say, what do you see as the future of that property? Begin those dialogues. So, because that does affect the capital improvement plan and of course our budgeting process, so we need to start thinking now about that property.
Well, I think the specific conversation that finance had was that I think that there was $350,000 in next year's budget for that parcel to make it into a parking lot. And when finance talked about it in January, we didn't move it. We changed a lot of things in the CIP in the January meeting. We did not move this. We wanted to hear what Parks had to say about it, and we have a meeting next Monday. So.
I mean, I personally would not, I don't like the idea of the village investing $350 for a parking lot. I know I've been very adamant about the fact that we don't have a parking issue, we do not need
Yeah.
more public parking in the village, so I wouldn't support that idea.
Well, I think the other thing too that we wanted, I think we made clear, and I know we don't have a clear update, but that the post office is not going to go there. Post office is gonna stay where it is now. From what I understand, we don't know if they found an alternate location. Not sure if they have, but their lease isn't up until early 2026. We'll have a little bit more time, but nonetheless, if they were to move there, we'd have to build something for them, which we aren't gonna do. So if it's not a post office, then
Well, the other thing that we just discussed in our last board meeting was we are now working on building a task force that is going to look into other possible options for the admin office space, so I guess I would like to wait and see if this is a potential location that could be more cost effective for the village for the admin building. You know, I would like to wait and see if that's an option.
Well,
before
just
we
to
decide.
refresh the committee's memory, when Ayers did their facilities planning, they did draw up two different options for that parcel for the administration building. And it would not hold the design and have this, the space that we were requesting for the building, and that's why just,
As I recall, it couldn't hold staff and parking, let alone meeting room.
How big was the meeting room then?
I think it ran out of space before they even got to the meeting, like
Okay.
regardless. So
Okay,
that's what I recall.
all right. So when do you think the committee for, I'm asking Nate, the committee for, to look at village properties will start to meet?
We anticipate after the 25th.
This month, after the village board meeting? Okay.
At that point, we've got
Okay,
a number of people interested in serving on there, and
great.
yeah, I think I've seen the 14 properties. I think that it's important when we ask that question, that we are open to whatever answer that group comes back with.
Okay, so we expect that committee to work for 2 months at the most,
So
or I don't know.
my conversation with Dick, we're looking at having done by June 1st. Having that committee wrap up by June 1st is our goal. And this has got to go to the board, and the board's got to agree to that as well.
Okay,
so can you share with us what those 14 sites are?
Don't have them with me. Sure, if you ask Dick, he's
yeah,
got them.
Dick has,
Yeah.
Dick put the list together.
Did Dick send it to you by email?
No, he did not.
Okay, so at this point, it was referred from finance, so we've discussed it. And what we discussed is it won't be the post office, and at this point, we're waiting to see the outcome of the properties committee. I don't know what, I'm not quite sure what to call it, sorry.
Village admin ad hoc.
Right, okay.
What about the park, turn it into a parking lot situation? I mean, I commented on it. I don't know how everyone feels about it.
Well, I guess that would, as chair of finance, I guess I would like to know that if we all agree with you that we should not be spending $350,000 and making it into a parking lot, that would have the blessing of the Parks Committee on us removing that out of the CIP where it's currently at. That I think will be most helpful. We don't have to make a decision about what will or won't go there, but just if we're not interested in spending that money for that item, that will be most helpful.
So I would agree with Lily, I don't want to spend $350,000 on a parking.
Do we want to spend money to at least tear the building down?
No,
I think
at this
that's,
point.
How long?
I thought that was still in there. I think. Well, that was supposed to be $75,000.
But if we don't know what we're gonna do with it, could we?
Well, we had said we're not spending it in 25.
Right, right. I think it was in there. We weren't gonna spend it this year. It was already taxed for, and was that one of the items that we reserved?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so.
So we didn't want to have to resubmit a budget,
Right.
so we just reserved that. I would agree that we probably, until we know what we're going to do with it, we shouldn't tear it down, plan on tearing it down.
I was gonna say, that can be a future.
But that's not.
But that money still just stays there.
Right, it's not removed.
Yeah, it's not removed, because we don't, the complications from.
Might be able to look into like removal money at some point. I mean, the building, depending when you take it down.
For grant.
I don't know if it would qualify, but the building's in pretty bad shape.
Okay,
It was in pretty bad shape.
When they moved Parks in.
okay, Jerry, give it,
I mean, it's a village asset, and making an investment in that asset that's not long-term aligned with our priorities doesn't make sense.
Mike,
Yeah, I would agree with you and Lily. I don't think a parking lot is a good use of that space. The only question I have is, I thought we have some kind of issue about space there and owners of property in and around that space that are we limiting our ability to resolve that issue? The DNR related issue, or the Warren grant?
That has nothing
Issue.
to do with that property
That's a
now.
different property.
There's a lot of moving parts on there, but that's like 7 steps down the way.
Okay, so so then I would say, yeah, I would not spend.
Okay, so we have consensus on that.
Okay, now if you
And-
want to do a motion, because you have to make a recommendation to finance.
I think we have comments for, like, just a couple comments from Ken first, and
I just have
then
one
Miles.
question on the $350,000 for the parking lot. I take it that's including tearing the old building down.
We had budgeted a separate
Yeah.
dollar amount for that originally,
You know what that figure is?
75,000. I don't know if that still holds true. That, I mean, that was a number from,
That local person, like from JF? Don't know.
We didn't get that
We didn't
far.
get that far, I don't think.
yeah, I think that was an estimate that we got from not necessarily somebody who would actually do the work. I don't know if it was Robert E. Lee or Stan Tech or something for the size of the building. I can't remember where that number came from, but somebody gave it to us.
Is
Was
that
there-
is that in your budget or is that?
That was already,
Yeah.
you've already paid for that in your taxes. Okay, that was,
But is it in a separate CIP fund or is it just
It's-
sitting there in the slush fund?
no, it's reserved for if and when we want to tear it down. No slush fund, Ken.
Well, you know, government's getting bigger and bigger. So
Oh, my goodness.
just ask her.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Miles, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just, was looking at the AIR's facility study and the old Mill Road location. The two options they had on Mill Road that I'm looking at here, both included the post office as part of that admin building on that location, so that's something to consider. If space was an issue and parking was an issue there, it was probably related to, because the post office is a big chunk of that building. So if that was why you couldn't fit the meeting space, that might have been why, so that's just a revisit, unless there was a further version of that. And just about that bidding thing that came up earlier with no bids. That happened in Bailey's Harbor a couple of years ago, just for informational purposes, where they were trying to do the shoreline, where the Nelson's property is.
Yeah.
Where they bought that property, they actually put that out to bid and got no bids either. And they eventually had to redo it in a different way, probably similar to what you were just talking.
But they didn't have a federal grant to do that, did they?
I don't know what that was. I remember I was surprised because so many places bid on the shoreline project,
Yeah.
but that one, I think they had, in that case, they had split it up into multiple, like one person do the parks,
Oh.
one person do the shoreline, because there were certain firms that didn't want to do, they were willing to do the rocks, but they didn't want to do the park. And they were willing to do part of the pier, but not the rock. It was just a weird scenario.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the specifics of it, but there was something similar to that where you just didn't get any bids and it surprised me at the
Yeah.
time, but so it does happen elsewhere.
Okay. Okay, so we have good direction for finance. Do we need to, I don't think we need a vote. Do we have consensus? Okay,
It's just a consensus then.
yes.
Okay, that the members of the Parks, Property and Streets Committee do not believe it will be appropriate to spend $350,000 on creation of a parking lot on the property located at 2313 Mill Road, and therefore the recommendation is made that the village's CIP be amended accordingly. Okay,
Thanks, Joe.
Do we need to say anything about the decision to defer raising that building until there's a plan for the property?
I think that's in 2026 anyway.
Okay. Okay.
No. We just said that we wouldn't do it this year.
Okay, so it's not in.
When we reserved it. The funds, so it wouldn't go into the undesignated balance fund. That we would not act on that. This year.
So would it have to be acted on in 26 or could you defer it beyond that?
We could
Okay.
defer it beyond.
Okay.
We do at some point have to look at, the cost of the insurance. I don't know how much is on there. and liability and things of those other things when you're looking at that.
Inflation,
building
it's
too.
just gonna keep costing us more every year.
Yeah. Agenda item number 5F, this is public space audits prioritized list and comments. So this comes from the public space audits that we've received from Door County. So we have them, I submitted one and of my priorities, as did Lily. And that's what, because this is a very comprehensive report. It goes through both the sports complex as well as Waterfront Park, and I think you and I were both aligned on what our priorities were.
Yeah, my comments are not in here, just sent them today, but
Right.
basically are similar to Louise's.
It looks like it was in both places, you know, enlarge and the playground area and make it more accessible, more seating, and maybe some more water fountains. You know, I talked about a beach accessibility meeting, and we've talked about this in years past too.
Yeah.
You know, it's and that was doing a beach, what do they call it? Beach mat, yeah. And they're not, I mean, I think Matumba has one, a few people, but that was really accessibility, you know, expanding play areas and
Make them inclusive.
drinking fountains.
Yeah.
So I think we said that we would, because there's nothing we can do right now, but those were our priorities.
I do think if hydration stations is a priority of the whole group at sports complex, it's something to think about with that bathroom addition you're doing right now versus coming back later and installing the hydration system. Because
But what, sports complex, yeah, okay.
right, because you know, to add that hydration station.
Yeah.
To the restroom at Waterfront,
Expensive.
it was quite a bit to go back and retrofit that. So if that's something you want at the concession stand addition at the sports
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah.
It's time to talk about that before McMahon finalizes those plans, or it just costs you more in the long run.
Because those restrooms are gonna have to be on the south side of the building now,
Right.
So that hydration station won't be real visible.
But we're just talking about the ball field side,
Yeah,
because there's nothing over at the soccer field. It's
Right.
just open space.
we are just talking about that because that's where the,
Yeah, I was just
Only
thinking
building.
that's the one that's going in right now, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to figure out where do you want them
Yeah.
and then plan for that and budget for that.
so with these priorities then go into. Does this go into budget planning or, yeah, or as it relates to either developing the rig or what's happening out at the sports complex?
Well, in my mind, what you should be doing is making your decisions. If this is your priority list or whatever you decide on.
Yep.
That should guide your future decisions. It should guide your budget.
Mhm.
So if, let's say, the playground is, okay, we have accessibility mainly for the playground area. That's ranked on both of these as the number one at the sports complex. That is something I think that you need to think about at budget time is, wait a minute, remember our priority was XYZ, not some project that came up after.
Okay.
Well, and just to let this committee know, we had budgeted, I think it was only over 2 years, so it was multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars each year to get to $500,000 plus to redo the playground at Waterfront Park. At our January meeting, we took that out of this year and the big dollar amount, I think, for next year. And we put in proposed $100,000 each year, kind of saving for it. And most likely this, unless a whole bunch more money becomes available somewhere, I think we put it out for the next 4 or 5 years, however many years they are in Vlad's graphs. So that is that is being proposed in there, but it's not something that's gonna happen for quite some
Yeah,
time.
that'll be a while, because it's expensive, but.
Yeah.
So, I mean, accessibility, yeah, enlarging comes first and then along with it, accessibility.
Can I ask a question, when you say accessibility, are you talking inclusion or
Inclusion.
access?
Yeah, I think
Maybe
I specified in one of those I think it was waterfront park one for the playground to be inclusive, accessible and inclusive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's for budgeting in the future and, we can, so do we? We don't get back to do Goodyear County or anything on that kind of stuff.
No,
right?
it's-
We
it's
receive
just-
the audit, we know it's, okay.
Right,
right.
it's to help us. I do wanna, look at Lily's, though, one of her second thing at the sports complex is more seating, benches, picnic tables and soccer field and playground area.
I remembered, sorry to interrupt you, I just remembered, there's I forget her last name, Susan something, but she wants to donate benches for the soccer.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so she wants to donate them directly to the soccer association, but we can have them out there all summer. I haven't looked at them yet, I'm gonna look at them and get back to you, see what kind of benches she
Yeah,
has.
because I was gonna say
Oh, she has a
that's,
specific one she wants to donate, okay.
She's got them already.
Oh.
She used to, like, her and her husband were really involved in soccer up here many years ago. And they have like benches, like we've had other people donate equipment and such, but she's got benches, so I'll look at them and I'll let you know.
sure,
Yeah.
because I was gonna say that's an easy one to chip off, that doesn't need to wait.
Yeah, because everyone's always bringing like their own chairs.
Their own chairs, yeah.
Your picnic blankets even.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice.
The other thing on Louise's list at waterfront was provide more shade by planting more trees. The finance committee did agree that some of the tourism revenue dollars, am I thinking of municipal revenue dollars or funds go for planting trees. So again, that's an easy one. They already said you need to put money here yet. So if that's a priority, that is something we should probably start working on.
Identify where.
Right. And we should do that when we do our spring walk around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess planting in the fall would be best, right?
And see if
Planting in
there's
the
a
fall
land-
is best, but
Yeah.
our spring walk around and then
Yeah.
determine
Yeah.
what kind of tree for each particular place, depending upon where it's at and what other trees are around it.
Okay, agenda number, item number, sorry, 5G, volunteer day update. So this is,
So
Yeah.
we did meet with Green Tier, a couple weeks ago. I don't think that date worked out for them to have a joint meeting. I asked, no one was really available. I really, really wanted to have a joint meeting. I was still here, but anyway. We are working on, let's see, Paula did reach out to Jeff, let's see, from Door County, remind me their name.
I'm calling.
Climate.
Oh, the
yeah,
Climate
Change
Coalition.
I
Okay.
completely lost there. And we are getting trees from them. I don't know exactly what date we'll be handing those out.
are we doing, are handing those out on Earth Day or no?
Earth Day, right around that. That's
Okay.
a busy week because that weekend is Easter
Oh,
and then
yeah.
midweek starts
should
the
wait.
draft.
Okay,
So I don't think, we do know that the Piggly Wiggly lobby is not available that entire week for us to hand trees out, so we were going to determine another location.
okay.
To hand out the trees. I was going to suggest that maybe, Climate Change Coalition could come and present, or talk about, what the times that they plant trees and how they pick areas. I guess you can, like, as a village, if you've got a specific area you want trees planted, like, they'll gather a group and come and plant trees there. So that's an option too. Jeff said he'd be happy to come
Sure.
anytime to a meeting here.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. But we don't have a specific day yet, I guess, for volunteer day. Like I said, we haven't been able to join with this committee. for a specific day for handing out the trees, but we are getting those trees, for April around Earth Day.
Okay, we should probably find out, because they're doing it in other locations, so we should see when they're doing, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think we have a
plan
date
around it.
for another meeting this month,
Okay,
I'll ask her.
I think Kurt's gone, so you didn't schedule.
Like that, he was the guy that I met in the coffee shop that day.
Jeff
Jeff.
and Mike,
And yeah, Mike was from the Ridges, though, right?
yeah, but he's also, I think,
Um,
on climate change.
So we would probably need to know from them if they could, like, if there's seedlings, like you say, where to plant them.
Yeah.
What they are, and they might even have the tools
Yeah.
that we could give the volunteers.
Jeff, my computer almost died, but did everyone get that email from Jeff earlier? I think it was this week.
I think.
Jeff, I don't think I did.
From Jeff, let's see about,
I did
they
not.
have something coming up with climate change. Let me see if my
I
computer.
think at the last month's meeting, or maybe it was the meeting before, we had talked a little bit about how they can plant trees. They usually have a group of volunteers that go out. I know, I was with a group one time that donated shovels, so they. Because we had talked at one time about planting trees at Lagerquist, and I thought that would be a good spot to
Let's
go
see.
out.
Oh, it just went out.
I know,
Which is
but
really
we-
small.
But yeah, that's the problem. I think the trees that we're talking about.
We
are
want bigger
planting,
trees.
we want bigger trees,
Bigger,
Yeah.
They're,
farther along.
I know.
Yeah.
Not saying that,
These are just seedlings.
Yeah.
They're.
I think they can even
Yeah.
plant it with the plug tool.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I got one
Yeah.
last year.
And I don't know, maybe they can get rid of trees, but anyway, this just went out to Green Tier, but it says.
oh, okay,
The Green Tier Summit is coming up on Friday, March 14th, 10 to 12 at the Crest Pavilion. They'll be sharing, green ideas, with progress and, potential or events that they have for the year. They'll be presenting community initiatives, land conservation information, sustainability initiative. And this is, and then tree planting and community composting as well.
okay.
So that's the Friday, March 14th
Yep.
at 10 Pavilion.
Okay.
I'll be out of town, otherwise I would attend. But they would be someone to talk to, or maybe they could give us guidance on where we could get bigger trees or maybe funding for them or whatever. But I think they're a good committee to, work with. And I'll keep you updated on Green Tier, once we have a date for the trees and where we're handing them out, I'll let you know, so.
In the past, when they first started doing it, we handed them out at Step War in the spring. And then it moved to, and I'm not suggesting Step War, nor am I offering them up, but we did because it was easier to, I don't know if they'll be open though.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, even, I don't know, somewhere around Waterfront Park might be.
Or Village Hall, I mean, it's
Village Hall, yeah,
hard, yeah.
yeah, I think
There's
Village Hall
plenty of
is a
space.
a
Okay.
good option, because, yeah, we do know for sure that the Piggly Wiggly lobby is not available that week.
I just have a question. I mean, do we have? Are we okay if people come and get whatever trees we allot per person and plant them where they want, or do we want to suggest spots for them to?
No,
be
they
planted?
come and get it it's two different things.
Okay,
So.
I was thinking of the volunteer day, I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay. Well, for the volunteer day, it would have to be, I guess, something designated by this committee or the board, right, where we want those trees.
Okay,
I do know that we had discussed for volunteer day, to make a list of things, volunteer opportunities to keep at the admin office that people could sign up to do.
Well, that was gonna be my next question is, we probably need to have Eric create a list of things that,
Eric's online if you want to ask him if that'll work. Are you unmuted, Eric?
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Eric, are you aware of, or do you have things in the park system that could use the help of volunteers during the month of April?
or even May if I could, because we're not, I mean, this is our March meeting. We're not meeting again until
April.
April, I don't know if we could pull it, I mean, maybe we could pull it together, but I mean, give us the option if we can, April, if not, May.
Um, nothing that really comes offhand to that type of volunteering. I mean, there's always your, walking and picking up trash along the roadways type of volunteering that comes to mind first and foremost, but more so probably volunteering to maintain vegetation, but that's more in like the summer when flowers are coming up in our gardens or something like that. To weed or to maybe water, do a little bit of extra watering. That could be some type of volunteer work. Most of the work that takes place in April is more along the lines of getting the park system set up and getting more of the heavy trash cans out and opening up facilities, sweeping gravel out of grass and using machinery. So if it would be volunteering, it probably wouldn't be like a light duty type of volunteer work. It'd be more of like a heavy duty, can you lift 50 pounds, type of thing. So I don't know along those lines if that's the type of volunteering we're kind of going after as far as that.
Well, weeding, watering and road cleanup is good. Weeding is always good. And so, I mean, we could do it after May because weeding is going to be all summer long and there's lots of different places where we need it. Doesn't prevent us from having that list available at the auditorium, or sorry, at the admin office,
So then,
right?
do we want to consider moving volunteer day into May instead of, like, I understand why we would want to have it for Earth Day, but if there aren't many opportunities for April, maybe we just want to move it out a month. And
Well, from what he says, a lot of this cleanup is pretty, like, you need machinery, or you need to be strong, or you need, maybe it's not everyone can do it.
You could have, cleaning out, Gateway Park, the old schoolhouse. I mean, I really doubted that has had a deep clean in a while.
Actually, it's cleaned every year.
No, we
Is it clean?
we clean it every year, I guess, with the exception of this past year, because we didn't open, but it wasn't, but we also cleaned it though before the Historical Society did their events.
Yeah, but the
Okay,
windows
that
are
was-
washed and the floors are
Yeah.
cleaned and, yeah,
Okay.
but it still could be cleaned, yes.
what about like, Eric, painting benches or something of the sorts, garbage cans?
Say that again, Lily?
Painting any type of equipment like benches or trash cans or anything like that?
Well, we kind of go about that in the winter. We kind of reserve that work for the inside to do, especially but benches would be power washed. We had been doing that. They all were power washed last actually spring. They were all done throughout the whole village. Trash can lids are probably the only thing that we would paint. We haven't gotten to and because they're brand new are the trash cans, the metal ones that go along the North Bay Shore Drive. I'm anticipating those will have to be painted at some point, but probably not for another couple of years. So as far as painting, of little things, we'll either save that for the colder months and do, or you know, or if it's, like that, we usually tend to save that for inside during these types of months.
I like the idea of keeping it simple on like a roadside trash walk or something, just to get
Weeding.
our first volunteer day kind of on the books, and then we can start to
To raise awareness.
build on it.
Or even have.
Yeah, roadside trash is always an issue in the spring when we're driving around. We try to get out there and do it, but we get overwhelmed with park setup and summer setup. So it kind of gets put on the back burner, and then a lot of things get hidden in the grass as the ditches grow. So we can't always get it all out of the ditch lines. So yeah, if we're gonna do something light duty and make awareness, roadside cleanup would probably be our best bet. And then, just as far as like safety with everybody, bring visible clothing and everything like that.
Well, when I did it with, with the DDC, with Destination Door County, we had, traffic vests. And we had, we did have, I think that we had sticks oh no, we had gloves, never mind. We had gloves to pick things up, and then we had large plastic bags, and I think there were a couple of different teams, and I think we each got like a half a mile, something like that. And it was on Highway 57, just south
I
of
think
Bailey.
sticks would be important if some people wanted to volunteer that, bending over.
Yeah, if we have sticks, yeah.
Could, Eric, do you think you
I
could
have
make
minimal sticks and no vests.
The SBAA has vests, so we can ask, yeah.
Do you think you could make a list of like the roads that you would rather,
Yeah,
that would be of more help to get cleaned up?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, if we can get the road list, Aaron, can you ask, I think you guys have a box full of
Yeah, I
vests.
think I'm pretty sure we do. but
Yeah,
I'll-
okay. Okay, vests. We can see if we can get sticks and then work gloves. We were just told to bring work gloves and we did, so.
Everybody's got work gloves.
Yeah,
Garden
and plastic,
gloves or
plastic
whatever,
garbage
yeah.
bags, the village had, okay. So if, Eric, you can get us that list, I don't think we have to wait till the next meeting, and then we can try and figure out a way to let people know about that. Once the snow melts, after it snows in April, just kidding, so we would do it in April or May. Okay, that would be the first, it's a good idea, just to raise visibility. Okay. The next item is agenda item number 6, which is staff reports. And you'll see Eric's report here.
And then those ice rink numbers go with that report.
Any questions for Eric?
I would like his report to stay in Janelle's tickler file just because of, when he was at that conference. I think there are conversations to be had in the future. And whether it's the signage, whether it's the crosswalks, that is easily accessible, doesn't get lost because they're March minutes of 2025 and nobody can remember.
Yeah.
What meeting was that at?
Yeah.
And we spend an hour going through all the old minutes.
Correct.
Yeah,
That rock sign was pretty cool.
I agree.
yeah.
And I also like the hunting shack for the disabled, Eric. That was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool presentation that they did out there.
Yeah,
A good use of their property.
And actually, I like street bound. Maybe, crosswalks are one thing, but also they have solar reflective surfaces for striping,
yeah, that was pretty cool stuff.
which could be, I don't know if that's useful or not, but it's a great idea to keep it in.
Who
Well,
went,
even-
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Even the recreational and school surfacing, we're talking about the
Mhm.
ice rink or, other things out at the sports complex.
Mhm.
I think there could be some really great conversations about that.
Yep.
Eric, whoever you sent it, because I don't think it was you, they did a good job.
Thank you. I do want to clarify one thing that I said earlier on the beach water quality sign. I misread that paragraph. I brought Mike Malpe out there to identify power, but we were still waiting on the sign to see if it was extension cord ran or a direct run. There is power out there. We're just waiting for clarification from the sign to see what type of infrastructure we just need to either do we need to put an outlet out there or do we need to run it directly into the closet and into the direct power. So I misspoke when I said we already had power out there. Also, I wanted to bring to
Can you get it, but we can get it out there in time for, I'm not sure when the sign's gonna arrive, but they're ordering it now.
if I can get a picture of the sign to see what type of power it needs, if it needs a conduit directly ran to it, or if it has a cord that plugs into an outlet, Yeah, we can definitely work on getting that done prior to the sign's delivery. I haven't seen the sign yet. And, but I have had Mike out there to take a look at it. And he's like, yeah, this shouldn't be an issue. You got power right here. Um,
Reach out to Tim at County Parks, because he's the one that's gonna place the order. He can probably give you the specs.
I can definitely do that.
Then you kind of, then you'll know what you're gonna get. Thanks.
Yep. I also wanted to bring the attention to something that happened over this past week, behind the post office. There was a sign that was destroyed. It was a do not enter and a one-way sign. Um, Practiced when signs usually go out, we same hole them. We don't typically call in diggers just for speed and convenience and say if like a stop sign was to get hit, we want to get that up and back operating immediately, which actually happened last week. That's why the crew had the auger out, so they went and performed this action back behind the post office to another damaged sign. Unfortunately, the power was hit to the post office during them performing this operation. So I just wanted to make you guys aware. I don't want any rumors floating around. I'm sure a lot of people saw us working back there this past week. I want to congratulate them for being very proactive after they had damaged this power. Um, they ended up having to call. I was out of town. They ended up having to call Mike Maltby and Wisconsin Public Service, coordinated with those two to restore power to the post office. So there is a temporary line sitting out behind the post office right now. I had talked to Mike today when I got back to work. He said that Wisconsin Public Service plans on burying this line that was damaged sometime this week. They also were vigilant with the propane line that feeds the post office as well, in checking that and making sure that wasn't leaking. Saturday morning, myself, the fire chief, and Feral Gas went out to confirm that that line was not hit. It is not leaking, thank God. Also, but this made Feral Gas aware of a certain situation that I am waiting upon more information for. Apparently, it involves a gas line running through a roadway, which constitutes some kind of regulation that they may have an issue with. So I'm waiting upon more information for that. But I just want to make you guys aware of this.
Eric, you said that there were 2 signs damaged?
Yes, on Wednesday, when I was on my vacation, the sheriff's department called me and they had.
I just needed a yes. Okay,
Yes.
so then my next question is were they vandalized or were they struck by a vehicle or a truck?
The stop sign was struck by a vehicle or a truck.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Something to think of long-term, and I know this would be very expensive, but we spend so much money repairing lines and things that we're not aware of. It really would be nice to get, I don't know if it's a Platteville student project or if a university can do it, but for someone to go out there, and I don't know if it's LiDAR or what it is, but where they make a grid in the park and they're able to find all of our lines and actually get them mapped. Because we run into this problem all the time. We don't know where lines are. They're constantly getting hit. Eric's crew is spending days out there trying to repair them. It would be a nice goal for the village to eventually have all of our lines mapped.
Well, can we put that on next month's agenda and have a little bit more of a formal
Sure.
report from you and see what programs are out there?
Yeah, Platteville's, what is Platteville doing? They're doing it for some, that project, but they're doing it for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get notices every year. Now it's a little late because we've already received them, but we'll get notices from universities saying,
Yeah.
do you have any projects for our students? You know, they're looking for
Yeah.
work.
Doing something for Liberty Grove, I forget what though. Anyway, okay. Administrator's report, any questions for Julie? Buffalo. Okay, my next up is matter to be placed on a future agenda or referred to a committee official or employee. I have the ice rink operating agreement. Yeah. I don't know if we put it on a future agenda, but the e-bikes, then I suppose we'll wait to get something from them, right?
Right.
Should we do the climate change? This is an April 7th meeting.
I mean, yeah, you can reach out to Jeff and see if,
You guys let you know.
and
Fine,
maybe
you can-
a joint
Climate-
meeting,
See from climate.
Climate Change Coalition,
Okay.
for the April 7th meeting.
joint meeting with Green Tier, try to pursue that again.
Yeah, I know last time. You asked them, right, about the joint meeting and they couldn't meet, so to see if they can do it
Oh.
again. We're gonna have different members here too,
Yeah.
so it gets harder.
Thank
I can answer.
Yeah, but their
Right.
climate change would be a good.
Anything else in your list or any notes that you made?
Eventually, we have to schedule our walking.
Yeah, okay. So would that be better in May, maybe?
I think we've done them in April, and we've been really cold, and we said we need to do them in May.
Last year, it was- I know it was after May, because I did it, and I was on board then, so it would have been,
Yeah, we did one
June or
fall
July.
and said that we would do one spring,
right, so maybe we come
which
next,
I think we should do 2 a year.
Yes,
We were, yeah. We don't wanna wait too long though, because the park gets busy and we do need to. If it's something that needs to go in the budget, we need time to get those budget numbers and discuss it at a committee level.
so do you want to put it on the agenda to come up with a date for the spring walk around? Just so we don't forget,
Yeah.
let's come up with dates that work for everybody. Okay, our next meeting is Monday, April 7th at 2:30, same place. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
so
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming, everyone. And thank you for those that zoomed in.